So one question that I get asked a lot is when you buy a jig and open it out of the package, how do you modify that jig? Well guys, there are different ways to modify the jigs for each season of the year. Today in this video, we're going to go over how members from our bass fishing declassified team like to modify their jigs in this early springtime period. Hey, stay tuned. You're not going to want to miss this.
All right guys, so one of my favorite jig profiles for the early spring kind of pre-spawn time period is definitely a football jig. This is the Z-Man Crosseyez football jig. Love this thing, and I love pairing it with the Crawz. That's a really good trailer. And you know, this bait overall gets a lot of bites. It's one of my favorite baits to throw around rocky points, you know, rocky transitions, and you know, just rock cover in general. And by itself, it can catch a ton of fish. And one of the modifications that I like to do to my jigs, especially in the early season, because one of the things that we experience with a lot of fish is they don't quite get the bait like they do, you know, when the water's a little bit warmer. They're a little bit more, you know, sluggish, and sometimes, you know, when they're focusing on crawfish, they'll just nip at the claws, and they won't get the full bait in their mouth when you feel that bite. And so, you know, I find that I miss a lot of fish when I go to set the hook this time of year, or when if I do get a fish hooked, a lot of times it's not hooked all that well. So one of the things that I actually do is I lean real hard on, you know, some type of oil-based scent, okay? And the reason why I'm saying oil-based, because there's a lot of great water-based scents that actually are more legitimate scents to me. Like they actually disperse in the water so the fish can actually, you know, pick up on that scent and come over to your bait. With oil-based, I don't think they're actually, to me, I don't consider them scents. I consider them more flavors. This stuff smells great, but to the fish, it's all about taste, because oil-based scents aren't really going to disperse in the water like water-based, okay? Because they're hydrophobic, so they tend to stick to the baits a little bit better, but they don't tend to draw fish from long distances. So the reason why I like to use a oil-based scent like Smelly Jelley is because I want those fish, when they pick up on this bait, you know, if they end up nipping at the claws, they end up tasting that oil-based scent, that flavor, and they'll want to hold on to this bait even more. So I tend to get fish that will hold on to the jig way better. They end up choking it, and I end up getting a better hooking percentage. So not only am I feel like I'm getting more bites, but I'm getting bites that actually result in good hookups in landing. So that's why I like to really add scent during the early season even more. And this even applies to later in the year too, warmer months, like when I'm fishing, you know, this football jig on the ledges, on the TVA. If I feel like those fish aren't getting it in their mouth very well and I'm missing a lot of fish, I will douse it in the Smelly Jelley, and you know, I'll end up getting a better hooking and landing percentage overall. So to kind of wrap up the football jig, I'm going to show you the tackle real quick that I like to use with this bait. I like to use a 7.3 medium heavy all-purpose series from Fitzgerald. I love this rod for fishing, you know, worm techniques or football jigs. And then I pair that with a 8.1 to 1 gear ratio VLD10 reel. And then I like to use 15-pound test fluorocarbon. That's the best overall line size. I may, you know, downsize or upsize based on the conditions, but overall 15 is a good all-around size. And I like AbrazX from Seaguar, because AbrazX is formulated for, you know, those high abrasion, you know, type environments like rocks. So that is the tackle that I like to use with the football jigs. But overall, the number one thing that I do to my jigs to enhance the amount of bites that I get is add some type of oil-based scent to have those fish hold on longer to that jig.
Hey everybody, welcome back here to another edition of Bass Fishing Declassified, and much appreciate you guys checking today's video out. Got a really good tip for y'all today. I'm going to show you how I like to modify my jigs for early spring bass fishing. And man, early spring, this is my favorite time to fish jigs, because I'm going to guess probably 75% of the really big bass I've caught on jigs, the bass over 7 pounds in my whole life, have come during the pre-spawn, this time of year when that water temperature is in the 50s. This is the magical number when you go to this technique, is water temperatures between 50 to 60 degrees in the pre-spawn, early spring, adds up to a lot of big fish. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you exactly how I modify this whole setup and then tell you a little bit about how to fish it. But first of all, it starts with the jig. This is my signature series Blaukat old school jig that we sell at Baitworks here in Springfield, Missouri exclusively. And it's the black and chartreuse color. This color is an important element of this particular system I'm going to show you, with the live rubber skirt. One of the things you'll find out in early spring, guys, is bass like a live rubber skirt over a silicone. There's just whatever reason it is in the black and chartreuse color. And also, I've got a fairly long skirt here, and I'll explain why I've got the length here just in a second. Okay, the main modification comes with the trailer. Now, for this technique, guys, I've experimented with a lot of different trailers and colors. This is the one that works best for me. It's a Zoom Super Chunk in the flippin' blue. That's the color of it, and that's the name of it. And this is a combination you don't see. You don't see people use a blue chunk with a black and chartreuse jig very much. But I'm telling you guys, it is money in the early spring. But I do a modification that's important on this particular trailer first. If you notice here, you can see sort of how thick this is on the bottom here. The first thing I want to do is I want to cut some of that off. You don't really need that extra thickness. So what I do is I cut it down just a little bit. And by cutting that piece of plastic down there, it gives me more bite on my hook. So I don't lose near as many fish, and it really helps you hooking the fish a lot better. Also, it'll allow that chunk to slide easier on your hook, give it a more natural presentation. So the next thing I do is I get a container of black dye. Now, a lot of people dye their lures, but very few people use black dye. Most people use orange or chartreuse. And I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna dip it in from the top, and I want to try to get it maybe, about halfway in there, maybe not quite halfway. Just about like that's about perfect. Now, guys, this is messy here. I'm going to get this all over my hand. So I would highly suggest you getting a piece like a paper towel or something to lay it down. But I've got approximately this much of it dyed. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hook it on like a pork frog long ways. I'm not going to thread it on there. I'm not going to thread it up. I'm going to hook it right at the very top of it. And what this does is it makes a large profile jig. This is critical in the early spring. You do not want a small jig. You don't want a finessey jig. You don't want a compact jig. You want a big profile jig. This jig right here is close to 5 inches long the way I have it set up, threaded on here like this. And the combination, guys, of the black and chartreuse, modifying this chunk with the black dye on it, is deadly in the early spring. There's something about it. There's a window of time when that water temperature is 50 to 60. They will bite this thing really good. Most of the time, I'm looking for water clarity anywhere between 1 to 3 feet. If it's over 3 foot clarity, not too effective. If it's under a foot clarity, not too effective that as well, because the water temperatures are still pretty cold. So guys, just pitch it and flip it around whatever cover you have on the bank. If you have bluffs, you have rocks, pitch it to that. Fish it around boat docks, stumps, lay down timber, shallow grass, whatever. But this combination and this modification will catch you some really big ones. So hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll talk to you all next time.
Really quick, guys, before I go into modifying this jig, just a reminder, hey, if you're interested in a one-on-one virtual lesson from one of our guys on the Bass Fishing Declassified team, go to the Fish the Moment website, where we will give you a chance to communicate with us for an hour, and we'll help you break down your lake, get you ready for a tournament, or even for a day of fishing. Gives you an opportunity to talk to somebody, learn maybe a couple nuggets here or two, and like I said, hey, it's a pretty unique opportunity. Hey, so after the video, go to fishthemoment.com and check out the one-on-one virtual lessons. Hey guys, I'm going to go over how I like to modify the Fish the Moment Offshore jig by Jewel Bait Company. So for the early springtime period, there is a little modification I like to do this jig. One thing about this jig, when Johnny designed it, is you see this long skirt, and that's for the fact that you can modify it different ways for different time of the year. I know for the winter period, I like to cut this dude off really, really short, okay? For the spring period, I like to do just something a little different. For this jig, I love to throw it in brush piles that are going to be in your staging areas for bass before they go up in your coves and some of your spawning flats. So once again, like I said, I love to throw some brush. It will catch fish and rock. There's a recent video I'll put the link in the description to where I caught some good fish with this and rock on a trip in the winter. So let's go ahead. The first thing is let's mess with this skirt. As you see this long skirt, okay? And one thing I know y'all guys just saw Randy and his jig, and you know how he didn't even touch the skirt. His skirt was made perfect for this springtime period. And so this one, as you see, I'm not going to keep it like this. Now I'm going to get me a plate. I'm going to try to cut this to where I can get this stuff on the plate, throw it in the trash, and not get it in my boat right now. So let me get these scissors. I'm going to try to cut this though, guys. Let's see how close I can get it. I'm going to try to cut this right. I'm going to leave some strands beyond the hook, okay? I'm not going to leave all of these there. Now, hopefully I get this in here. I'm going to try to look over here around the camera, okay? I'm going to go right here, all right? And now it is a little bit longer, okay? Like I said, in the winter, I like to just go straight, cut it through. Now what I would do, you know, in a way, is I'm just gonna go ahead and just trim a couple here and there, okay? Like I said, I'm not gonna keep it all there, but I'm just gonna trim some. And that's just what I'm gonna do with the skirt, okay? It's not super short, some are longer. I like to leave this middle section a little longer, some longer down here. Like I said, for the winter, I'm going to trim this dude short, but this early springtime, that water does get in the 50s, you know, up to 60s. I'm going to just cut it just to keep it a little bit longer than normal. Okay, now the next thing I like to do, okay, guys, is we're going to go ahead and this guy, you know, we have this weed guard here, okay, and the weed guard can be tricky to some people. So as you see, the weed guard, see how close I can get it. They're kind of, you know, on top of each other. Okay, this top one, all right, for me, I just like to go left to right. I'm going to go to the left, move this dude to the right, okay. Just kind of get this back right here. All right, get these all kind of around it, okay. There we go. All right, now as you see, I'm going to try to keep them level. Now, depending on the brush, okay, of making it wider or shorter, I'm going to try to keep it about right here to where that hook's going to get protected by, okay. When you go a little bit wider, it might kind of deflect it and get through there. But I'm going to keep it shorter. You can if you want. Some people I know that throw these like to keep it up a little bit. You know, I'm not going to push it too low there. I'm just going to push it up just a little bit. Now my trailer. Okay, trailer for this jig. All right, I'm going to use for this trailer right now, because I use a couple different trailers. But right now, I'm going to go with, here's the package, Big Bite Baits. Okay, it's in the college Craw, and it's a black and blue silver. Okay, now you see. Peanut butter jelly jig, all right, that's the peanut butter jelly cutter, black and blue, and then a little silver. And you're thinking, why are you not matching the jig? Well, there's a guy that I fish with that's colorblind, and he used to outfish me pretty much with a jig a lot. And then I kind of found out, I was like, why are you not matching your jigs? And he's like, well, I'm colorblind. That's just, look, that looks good. And so I just kind of followed it. And then I started at times catching the same amount of fish as he did. When we fish jigs together, I might beat him. Anyway, if you guys know who I'm talking about, you might be getting a good laugh right now. So that's something that we just learned when he was younger. So I'm going to push this plate out of the way. So now with this one, okay, I just started using this jig trailer recently, and I'm going to use it this springtime. Like I said, I like to use different trailers, and this is my one I'm going to use this year. I kind of like that silver on the bottom. It can give a little bit of a shad color, okay, just a little bit. Like I said, you know, this jig, I'm not imitating a shad, but sometimes them bass don't know what we're trying to imitate right, and you know, anyway. So all right, now looking at it right here, okay, it's going to give us a good big old presentation. I'm just going to cut a little bit of this off, okay? Let's just go ahead. Let's start off by one. That is one thing I like about this trailer, okay, guys? And you can Texas rig flip this, by the way. You do not have to use this just as a jig trailer. But when I first got me a package of these, I noticed how it has these lines. For me, just an easy cut, okay? So I don't really, you know, it kind of just takes some thinking out of it. Sometimes I overthink things, and that's one of them, okay? Is how big of the trailer. So I'm gonna put this guy right through there, okay? I know you can't really see it all. All right, we got the keeper. Let's put it through here, and there we go. Now it is a little bit of a bigger jig, okay? Like a bigger, bulkier right now. And for the springtime period, I want to throw a bigger, bulkier jig for the bigger fish. Now, if you notice you might miss a bite or two early, something's going on with the conditions, you know, and then they're just finicky. That's one good thing about this is you can cut it smaller. You can do what you want with this jig trailer, okay, or your jig trailer. For me, if I'm throwing a jig, I'm not trying to catch 2-pound fish. It just is what it is. I'm trying to catch 4-5 pound fish with this guy. If I want to catch 2-pound fish, I'll go get my spinning rod out, okay? So anyway, all right, hey, that's my modification. One other deal I will do to these, I don't have it out, it's in my boat in there, is I might dye these claws, okay? I might, you know, switch up the dye, red, orange, chartreuse. I'll just switch it up. But anyway, guys, that's my modification for the Fish the Moment offshore jig by Jewel Baits. Thank you guys for watching today's video. Hopefully you've learned something about modifying these dudes right here so you have an opportunity to catch a big bass this upcoming spring. Hey, stay tuned for more content on the Bass Fishing Declassified channel. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time.